He's married to a Dominican, and that's Morton Meldal, and he's a professor, a doctor as well. And he's married to a Dominican, and her name is Fedria Hilaire, Dr. Fedria Hilaire. So they were both here last week. So if you missed that program, you can definitely go to one of our platforms, either the In the Spotlight radio and TV shows page, or you can go to the Spotlighters by In the Spotlight radio show and catch up on that program anytime that you have a chance. But it was definitely a great program, and we hope that you catch up on it if you didn't. Tonight, we have what I consider to be a great Dominican on the In the Spotlight radio show. And, these persons like my guest tonight, are truly, truly great Dominicans. And, they are the folks who toil the land, who struggle, who go the extra mile, who start businesses. They are entrepreneurs, and we will hear the stories, some of the stories tonight from my guest. Let me say good evening to the folks at the Great Old House. And they provide us with dinner after the program on a Monday night. So once we catch them in time before they close, then we have some dinner for you after that, Mr. Robinson, my guest tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank Josephine Gabriel as well. They provide us with our water, but can you believe I ran out of water and didn't get a chance to get? But it's okay. I know Jenny and the team will take very good care of us. And Mr. Robinson said he is quite fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who do not yet know who our guest is tonight on the In the Spotlight radio show, it is a very well-known great Dominican, and that is Mr. Ken Robinson. Now, interestingly, I was talking to somebody today, and the person said, I don't think his name is really Ken, I think he has another name. So I guess we have a few things to learn tonight about our guest. And with that, we go across and say good evening to Mr. Ken Robinson.
Good evening, Ferdina, and thanks for inviting me.
It was my absolute pleasure to invite you. And I'll tell you, Mr. Robinson, I have an extensive list of potential guests for the program. But I'll tell you, in a matter of a couple of weeks, I had 2 people message me and say to me, why haven't you had Mr. Ken Robinson? So when the first person said it, I was like, yeah, why haven't I had Mr. Ken Robinson? I know Mr. Robinson has a bakery. I know he has a supermarket. Well, yes, you still have a bakery.
Yes, I do.
He has a supermarket. I know he's into studio stuff. I know this is somebody that we need to hear his story. And then a lawyer called me the other day and said, the person, that lawyer didn't message. He actually called me and he said, Ferdina, you need to have Mr. Ken Robinson in the spotlight. And tonight, it is my pleasure, sir, to have you.
Thanks again. And to all those who think that I deserve to have a story told.
And there I was thinking Mr. Robinson had a soft voice. No, it's a very strong voice for a strong man who has worked very hard.
I hope it's strong enough to light up your microphone.
I am very, very sure it is. Like all of my guests come here on a Monday night to share their story with us. And Mr. Robinson, I'm looking forward to hearing your story. I know one thing about our program, this program here, there is always something to learn. There is always something to be inspired by. And there is always something to be motivated by as well. And I know that we're going to get quite a bit of that from you, because one of the things that I have discovered is that there are many firsts.
Yes,
that came from you.
the many firsts.
And I really would like it if we emphasize a few of those when we're speaking. So if I don't know what some of the firsts are, be sure to tell me, Ferdina, that was one of the first, and the
Okay.
listeners and the viewers and the guests as well. So let me allow you to say good evening to everyone again. And if there's anybody in particular you would like to shout out, now is the time.
Yes. Again, I thank you. I would like to tell your guests that I'll be as frank as I can and as revealing as I can. And I would like to shout out my family, my wife, who is not in Dominica at the time, but who has had to go with her grandchildren to on a little vacation. She hasn't had a vacation for a while, and we thought that it would be a good time for her to take a little break.
And what is her name, Mr.
Oh,
Robinson?
we'll get to that a little later because I have it in my.
You know I mixed up your order, Mr.
I have an order of things there for you to remember.
I mixed up Mr. Robinson's order, on what based on what he sent to me. I kind of mixed it up a bit, but we will go with his flow. We will go with the flow. Whatever works for my guest,
Yes.
I go with that flow, right?
Okay.
All right. So as I said earlier on, Mr. Robinson, again, welcome.
Thank you.
So somebody I spoke to earlier today was saying to me that Ken might not even be your actual name.
Well, no, it's not actually my name. And I didn't know it wasn't actually my name until much later when I had to enroll at school. And I found out that while I was waiting to be called, that I was hearing Robinson, but I thought it couldn't be me because they were saying Ken. I'm sorry, they were saying Robinson E.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot be me. And they had to call 3 times before I identify myself as being Edric Robinson. Edric Roosevelt Robinson.
Oh, you're Roosevelt too. So
yes.
Edric Roosevelt Robinson.
Yes, long before the other Roosevelt.
What about the other one? The older one? Around the same time?
No, the older one was before me.
The older one was before you. So, Mr. Robinson, you got to find out your name was Eldrick in school.
Yes.
Yes.
But I had already gone to school and given them my name.
As Ken at
another school. But we'll elucidate on
that.
Get
there. No problem. But where did Ken come from, though?
My mother thought that she liked the name because she had heard it. And it's not Ken, It's a shortened version of Kenworth.
Kenworth.
So if you go back to where I came from, I am from Marigot. I was born on July 24th. And I was very upset with you when you took my date last week, which was my birthday. I was upset with you.
Last week was your birthday.
Last week, Monday, was my birthday, and you took it away from me.
That would have been so amazing.
Anyhow, but I think we can enjoy it tonight.
Definitely. And then the unfortunately, the folks that I had on last week would not have been here tonight.
I understand that.
And you did. You were very, very accommodating, and I appreciate that. So Kenworth it was.
Kenworth. And I used that name all the way to the academy. St. Mary's Academy. And I spent a year and a half at the St. Mary's, and I had to leave St. Mary's to go to school in Barbados because my mother was going to Barbados to live because her husband was being given a job at the police training school in Barbados, and I was being taken along. So that is the time when I found out in Barbados that my name was not Kenworth or Ken Robinson. Ken Robinson came long after because I found Kenworth was too long.
Okay. And you shortened it.
Yes.
So this Kenworth name is not on your birth paper. It's not anywhere legally?
No, it's not anywhere. but I enjoy it because it Kenworth Mack Trucks is a very big company, so I can use it.
You can use it. You can use it, and most people just know you as Ken,
Yes.
simply Ken.
Mhm.
You mentioned your mother's husband had to move to Barbados for a job, and from my understanding, it's a gentleman we all know very well.
You know him very well. My mother's name is Leona Pierre, and from that, but I mean, she was Nelson when I was born,
Mhm,
and my father is naturally Robinson, but Davis
mhm.
Robinson, who later lived in Portsmouth, all from Marigot, and uh, Ensley Pierre, who was chief of police for some years, um, was her husband. And he has just passed just 2 years now, and so I lived with my stepfather for my all my teen years.
How much do you remember about your mother?
My mother
Mhm.
is still alive,
Oh, she is.
and then my mother was here up to yesterday
Was where?
in Dominica. She doesn't live in Dominica now,
Okay.
but she was in Dominica up to yesterday when she was taken back home by my sister Lorraine. Maybe you know Lorraine Pierre, and uh, she was taken back home because my mother's birthday is the 22nd of July. And so we had a big celebration of
Nice.
birthdays. And as the birthday celebration actually took place on her birthday,
Okay.
but it was meant to be my celebration.
By the way,
But
happy belated. Do
okay.
you mind telling us how old you are? Is that a secret?
No, it's not a secret. I am 75.
75.
Yes. 75 wonderful years.
Have you looked in the mirror, Mr. Robinson?
I try not to look too often.
You look very young. I would probably put you in your early 60s.
Oh my goodness.
No one else has said that to you?
It was said to me very often before. I suppose my what I look like is changing now. So
No, it's just a few grays. But other than that, your facial features, your skin looks good, and you look like somebody just about 60.
well, I do feel like 60, except there are a
Good.
few little things that impede my
Naturally,
mobility and so on.
around this time, these things happen,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so tell me a bit more about her, your mother. I like talking about, the parents, just getting to know what they were like and what they taught you.
Oh well, my mother had 8 of us.
It. Mhm.
Yes, and one died at 15 in 1970, and another one died in 2008, I believe. The rest of us are still alive. Um, the others live with close to her in the States.
Okay.
I'm the only one living in Dominica. Yes. And I don't intend to leave because I just love Dominica to the end.
Mhm.
So, yes, my mother was, you could say, mostly a housewife,
Okay.
and she also was very good at sewing, and she taught a lot of people to sew, and they would come to the house in the afternoon, like two or three of them at a time, and she taught a lot of people to sew. We lived in Stieber Street, and that's where I grew up, and that's where up to the time that she came back 2 weeks ago, that's where we hung out in Stieber Street.
I listened to you speak about her um, teaching other people to sew. And what just played in my mind is that not only did she teach them to sew, but she helped them, I'm sure, in many instances to create some livelihood for themselves and their
Well, yeah, that's
families.
what it was about. The reason why she would teach them is because uh, a lot of times young people needed something for them to do because at the time when I was growing up, there wasn't so much. The focus wasn't on really going to university and so on. So they had to have something to fall back on in case the the chosen the chosen profession didn't work out.
Right.
And in any case, I learned to sew myself.
You did.
Yes, I learned to sew. I could darn, put my buttons on and things like that. Yes, and
But it's not something you pursued.
no, I never pursued that.
Mhm.
But also, she did baking, and maybe you might think that's where my sort of my I wouldn't say a love for baking, but my ability to be able to figure out recipes and so on, and to put them into into the oven to bake and get something out that feels and tastes nice.
Mhm.
So my mother baked a lot, and I used to do a lot of the cake mixing and so on. And I know at that time we didn't have the mixers that people have nowadays. Throw it in a mixer now. So I had to be mixing with my hand a lot. So all of those things, though, were things that were done to supplement the income.
Mhm.
Making cakes, making ice cream on a Sunday, and you know, she was always very handy at doing those little things.
Mhm. How did your mother raise you? What were the things that she taught you as a young man?
Uh, I'm saying typical because I mean I did all the wrong things that other young boys do. Run away from home on a Sunday and don't come back until late in the afternoon. Um, go on the savannah to play football and cricket, and you forget you didn't have lunch, and that was always something you'd get a beating for. So I grew up most like all the other boys in the area. A lot of boys, not many girls in the area. A lot of
Oh.
boys, yeah. And now that I look,
Other girls were being kept indoors while the boys were allowed to roam.
no, only boys really. I'm trying to see now. There were just one family with girls, two girls, one opposite each other. Apart from that, is only boys. That mostly boys, I should say. Um, and as you rightly were looking at it, I'm checking the houses. There were girls in them.
They were kept indoors, Mr.
Yeah.
Robinson, away from you all. That's what they did.
Yeah, we were not bad boys in that regard.
Yes. And you said your mom was married to former chief of police, Ensley Pear. May his soul rest in peace. What was it like growing up with him as a stepfather?
I had a lot of latitude. So I know he only beat me once.
Only once?
Yes. Only once. Yeah. And as I said, it would have appeared to be a grievous thing because my little sister and I took her out with me to go to what was at the time Green Lantern, down where the harbor is now. So we walked down there. And when I got down there, I forgot to go back home. And she was just like a little lamb sitting there. And every moment I would look at her, check her to make sure she's still there. But I kept her out too long. And so I got a beating for that.
And that was the beating
That was the beating.
From Commissioner Pear.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
What
was Green Lantern?
It was a nightclub. And
you brought your sister to a nightclub?
No, before it was Green Lantern, it was a nightclub.
Okay.
But it was the place where everybody went. At the Aquatic Club, also, that was the other name. And there was a jetty there where we used to dive from it. And a lot of people used to go there because that was used as the launching point for bathing because there's a lot of stones there and no sand. So it was the logical place for us to find and make it, a bathing pool for for ourselves, and they used to attract all the goodwill people, people from Roseau. There were some other clubs close by where you know the elite used to come. So we we um, we enjoyed going down there every Sunday. That was the place to go. Aquatic Club, Green Lantern.
It's the first anyone has come on this program and talk about either aquatic club. At least I don't remember that, but definitely not Green Lantern. I don't think it's the first I'm hearing about
Yeah,
that.
and
Those clubs.
Swinging Stars used to have a dance there every Sunday night, and I mean for a long time, and that was a place where dances were held on a regular basis because it was one of the few halls around that could hold a good amount of people, and it had become a staple in the business of entertainment.
There's not many of those types of clubs around these days. Can you give us your perspective on back then and how things are different now?
I was a little boy at that time, you know, so I don't know if my perspective would be relevant because all I went to do there, and I like to get inside, and there was nobody. There was no dance there when we were there.
Okay.
It's just that we were allowed to go inside and hang around, and at one time it was owned by Carlton Phillip. That yes, so
So it was just an opportunity to go somewhere and have some fun.
yes.
And you brought your sister, kept her too long. How old was your sister at the time you brought her there?
She was probably 3 or 4.
And you brought her and you just had her sitting while you do what you do.
Put her in the shade.
In the shade.
Make sure she was
and you got a whooping for bringing her back
too late.
So these are among some of the fun things and fun times you had as a boy growing up. What else do you remember, Mr. Robinson?
Oh, well, it depends on what you want to know.
Well, around that time, in terms of, a young boy growing up, first of all, you're from Marigot.
Yes.
So take us back to Marigot.
Yes. Marigot. 1948, 55. My mother got married in 1955. I remember being at the wedding, I was 5, 6, 55, I would have been 7. Yes. And after that, around that time, I went to the Marigot Infant School, which was where the police station was at Mantipo. Mantipo, the river before you get to Melvin Hall River.
Okay.
Yes, that's Mantipo River.
We're learning.
And the school was next to the police station. I have memories of the smell of the grass because lemongrass populated the area, and the police used to use horses. And because there were no cars for the police to use, they used horses.
Right.
And we would take the smell of the lemongrass as the horses were fed in the stable next door. And, so that's a familiar thing that can't get out of my mind.
But takes you back every time you smell lemongrass.
I can actually smell it. And there was I would go to school and I would be the first one there almost every day. And I would watch the boats, the fishing boats going out to sea. And I would just stand there and watch the majesty of those boats sailing, just bobbing and weaving on the water. Those are the fondest memories I have of that school. And also, romping around, climbing trees. Nothing different
usual
from usual stuff that young children do,
especially in the urban areas.
Yes.
In the rural areas. We didn't talk about Mr. Robinson, your actual father.
Yes. Mr. Robinson, as I say, he wasn't around because um, I don't know much about before. I can remember very little about, but soon after, by the time I was early in my years, he went to England. He couldn't stand England, and he came back later on and got married. And he got married to a Royer, a lady, right? So I never lived with him, and I knew him late because before he went to England, I never spent any time with him. Only when he came back from England that I made it my business to know this man who supposed to be my father. And so not much in between us except that, I recognize him as my father, and I that's, to me, that is all right.
Do you know enough to know whether some of your attributes, some of your skills, some of your talents were actually from him?
Um, what I would say is that um, he to me he was a boastful man, and I don't want to think I'm boastful, but he always thought that he could do things. Right?
Could he?
When he came back from England, he went into bus driving first and farming a little later. And he had bought 3 buses and hired people, and he was running one of them, and he was running, and they were running, and they had the other 2 being driven by hired people. So
he was enterprising.
I would say, from that angle, right?
So you got a bit of that from him, I'm sure.
I don't know. I don't know.
He was enterprising. Yeah. You are enterprising. So at least that, do you look like him?
Yes.
You do.
At one time, I looked in the mirror and I saw him, but some people would say you have to look close.
You have to look close. Let us talk, Mr. Robinson, about growing up as a young man. You mentioned school, some of your schooling a bit already, but at what point, remind us again that you left Marigot and came down to Roseau?
I left Marigot when I was 10 years old.
10 years old.
Because I lived with my grandmother at Marigot for all that time before I was 10. And by that time, I had another brother. And I had another brother who was at Marigot living with my grandmother for a short time, and he wanted to go back to meet his mother. So when he went back to meet his mother, I too was part of the package. Yes, so I came down at 10 years old. I came down to Roseau, and I found myself being placed into a school, which was the Roseau Girls School, and I stayed at the Roseau Girls School until I got moved to what is the Chateau.
Roseau Girls School, but mixed.
Well, yes, it was a mixed school, but I was referred to as the Roseau Girls School.
Yes.
And it was.
You're making us wonder there, Mr. Robinson. Was Mr. Robinson going to a girls' school?
Well, if the audience doesn't activate their mind, then they will, think, what is Roseau Girls School? Well, if I give all the answers, they will have nothing to think about. So yes, it was located where at the forecourt of the stadium. So that's where I went to, and then the Chateau, where I stayed until I passed the exam to go to the St. Mary's Academy. I went to the St. Mary's Academy in 1963. 1962, sorry.
1962.
January.
That was a long time ago, Mr. Robinson.
Please don't remind me.
Very long time ago.
Yeah, so after that, I spent a year and a half there, and I was moved, went to Barbados, and I attended the Commerce School in Barbados, where I spent just over on from 1963 um, September to 1966. Um, I wasn't a particularly bright person, not because I didn't know what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
but I always had, I was always thinking of something else, as though my mind was occupied with other things rather than schoolwork.
More on the skillful side.
Yes. Even at that time, without having any training, I could do wiring. Yes. And one of the things about my stepfather that I would tell him, when one day he came home and he saw that when he opened his uh, the cabinet of his record changer, he saw the light go on, and when he closed it back down, the light go off. Um, so
You fixed it.
I made it. I wired it in with us. I went to town. I bought a switch and I wired the switch to put on a light because it was dark when he opened it. So I wanted him to be able to see
Oh.
what record he was playing, being able to read well without having any difficulty. So the light, I put the light to I attached the light inside, and I put a switch that would be operated by the door that he.
Oh my goodness. He must have been truly pleased with that.
Yeah, because after that, when I grew up more, uh, he used to seek my, I wouldn't call it my counsel, but yeah, he used to ask me what I think of certain things that he had to do, that he wanted to do. And I felt very pleased about that.
Mhm. He had a certain level of confidence in you.
I think so.
Remind us again how you got to Barbados.
Well, at that time, the what should say, the tropical palm and the tropical, not tropical, federal palm and those boats that were bought by the Federation would travel from Jamaica to Trinidad. So once a week on Wednesdays, the one of those boats would dock in Dominica. So that's the boat by which all the family went to Barbados. And if you just mean how we got there,
Yes.
that
What
was
was
how we
the
got.
reason? Well, that we don't mind hearing as well as to how you got there. But what was the reason that took you and your family to Barbados?
Yes, my stepfather was given a job. He was going to work at the police training school in Barbados. At the time, the police training school was shared between all the islands in the I don't know if from Jamaica, but mostly Barbados and the Windward Islands. I'm sure of those. Share the services of the training school, and the police, Dominican police, would go up there to be trained, or down there, I should say, to be trained, and stay there for 6 months, 6 months, and pass out what they call a passing out parade, and then they'll return to Dominica to serve in the police force. So he was one of the trainers, and so my mother was married to him, had to go with him because that's the easiest way to have kept the family together, because all my other brothers and sisters were little, and one of them was born in Barbados, but the others that were alive at the time were how many? Four of us. Four, they we were not of the age to really take care of ourselves. And I remember my mother asking me if I wanted to come. I said yes.
You had a choice.
I suppose because my grandmother was able and willing to take care of me. As a matter of fact, one of my brothers actually did not come because he was living with my grandmother at the time. But later on, he spent some time in Barbados also.
Okay. So You stayed in Barbados for
5 years.
5 years. You went to school in Barbados.
Yes.
You completed your secondary education
Yes, secondary.
in Barbados. And then what happened? Time was up. Family had to return.
Well, yes, I took up a job
You
with.
did.
Yes, I worked in Barbados with two different companies before I came to Dominica. After I left school, I worked with a company called HB Block to do shipping, and I happened to have been working at this company that shipped chickens to Dominica, uh, to Fidel. So every time, and I was the person making the waybill. I learned to operate a typewriter right there. Yes. Although my stepfather was an avid typist, and he also trained a lot of people to type at home in the afternoons. So I was exposed to typing, and when that job came up, I said it just pushed me a little further,
Yes.
right? So it's not the typing that we do now. It was the heavy typewriter.
Pong, when you have to
really hit
literally
it.
pong.
Yes, you really had to hit it.
Yes.
But I was exposed to all of these things that other people some of them had to pay to get done, sewing and typing and and baking. So yes, after that, I worked with another company, which was an insurance company, but not for a very long time.
Okay.
Just about 3 months.
Insurance wasn't your thing?
At the time, what was happening is that Barbados was putting in the social security system. It was called, not social security, but you understand what I mean. The same thing like we have here, social security, provident fund, I think it was. So people couldn't make up their mind if they wanted to buy insurance or if they wanted to just stick with the social security. So it was a very hard thing at the time. And I didn't go to work with the insurance company with a degree in salesmanship. So it was not quite easy for me to, make a mark, succeed. So in any case, we had to come back home soon. So that saved me just 4 months after I left that job, we returned to Dominica. And then I started working at Astafan. So that is where I settled down and learned a lot of my stuff.
Okay, we're coming to that. Overall, how would you rate the Barbados experience and the time you spent there as a young man?
There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. I mean,
Bad.
yeah. Some of the experiences was not something that you really want to be exposed to. Like, I could not find a place on a cricket field in Barbados. And I thought, well, I used to play cricket in Dominica and I would be allowed to bat and bowl and do other things. When I went to Barbados, they said, man, you're in a Bajan, man. You can't get out. You can't bowl here, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Every time I remember this particular guy that told me so, I said, I do not want to get into conflict. Let me leave the cricket for him. He can have all of it. So I left cricket. I never learned. I never played any cricket. But I did play some football. And eventually I played hockey, field hockey, because Barbados plays hockey. And I had befriended a guy who we lived close by, and he had his bicycle and I had mine, and we used to go a lot of places together. And he was in the hockey team. So at one time they didn't have a goalkeeper, and he asked me, tell me, you could play, man, just come to practice. Yes, and I went to practice. I got on the team, and that year we won the championship.
Imagine that.
So I have a picture in the school. Up to now, I hope it's there. A few years ago, I went to the school trying to get in for me to get a picture of myself with the team, but I couldn't get in because the school was in session and I had to wait. And we had the reason why we went there was to take my brother-in-law to the doctor, and my daughter kept telling me, "No, we cannot stay any longer. We can't stay.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go." You know.
I hope you get the opportunity at some point, because
Mm,
that is part of your memories of your time in Barbados. So you said there was some bad, and we got some of that. So they were a bit territorial
yes.
in terms of the cricket, and that's fine. You left their cricket alone for them. You got to play some hockey. What were some of the other good memories?
Uh, I knew some very nice people, and especially this young boy. He died when he was 15 years old. But before that, I went up with my bicycle. I went to Barbados. I keep saying up.
You went to so you brought it on the boat.
I brought my bicycle with me to Barbados, and then we went to a family home, and this boy was there, and we became friends, and he took me around. I would have to, in Barbados, you could ride with somebody on the crossbar. So he showed me around everywhere. We went everywhere, you know. Um, so I got to know the place, and after that, that friend who introduced me to hockey, him and I, we did a lot of riding together, and yes, I rode all over Barbados. And Barbados is not really so big, so although after we had done all of that riding, I would hurt for 2 days, but it was really an experience being a young boy, and my excursions were to ride. Yeah.
When the time came to leave, is that something you were happy for, or you would have liked to stay to see what life could become in Barbados?
No, I just thought I had spent my time. I never thought of wanting to stay. Uh, I especially because the job I had just had, to me it was a failure for me, and I didn't want to. I would have preferred to just leave that and go. And at the same time, it wasn't getting any easier to get to work in Barbados, so it was welcome at the time.
So family came back, and I would presume Mr. Pierre
Yes.
went back to his.
Well, now he returned to Dominica to live and to take up a training school, because that's after that they built the training school here, and he was in charge of the training school.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, we had done the whole 360, and he was back home, and life was back to normal.
Life was back to normal. So you came back and you got employed at J. Astafan and Company Limited.
Yes.
Is that what it was called back then?
Yes, it
Yes,
was called
was always that
Astafan.
name.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you go to do at J. Astafan and Company, and how did you get that job?
I think my stepfather recommended me because he had
A pull string, Mr. Robinson, like we say.
the pull string. Let me tell you about that pull
Tell
string.
me about the pull string.
I was one of the best workers at Astafan, even if you call it a pull string. Because while I was there, the number of times I got promoted in a short time, I was doing the right thing. And my boss, Mr. Astafan, would seek me out to do certain things for him because he believed that I could do them. And that was a comforting experience, and something that, gave me confidence in myself.
Let me share something with you. So similar to you, when I got employed at DBS Radio, so when I became a national broadcaster, at the time, my father was the general manager at DBS Radio. He was not involved in the interview process. There were other people involved in the interview process, but I got the job, Mr. Robinson. Now, persons might say my father played a role, and even if he wasn't part of the decision-making process, but he may have influenced, or he just being the manager,
Yeah.
But guess what? I got to that radio station and I did a damn good job.
Yes, and I think I can say that too because I used to love listening to you
You
then.
see that? So similar to you, whereas we may have had some kind of pull string or influence because we worked well, you know, really that's just, you know, what they said at Teflon. Water off our backs of the like they say of the dashing leaf
Yes.
or whatever the case is.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
But yes, let's continue. Oh, boy, I just had to put in that little bit there.
Yeah, I know your
You
dad.
know?
I know your dad. I knew him.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I turned out to be one of the best. I mean, I'm not afraid to say that. They said you should never be afraid to pat yourself on the back, right, Mr. Robinson?
So I should do that?
Yes, you should do that for sure. Let the viewers see you doing that.
Yeah.
But yes, so your boss at the time you're saying had a lot of confidence in you and made requests of you so very often that you realized, you know, that you were an asset to that business.
Yeah, and you know, when other people didn't get to do certain things, because like I worked late every day.
Mhm.
Okay, we went home. I was supposed to stop working at 4, but 7 o'clock. It wasn't unusual for me to be still at work at 7. So
What were you doing when you started?
paperwork. They put me in the accounts department.
Okay. Did
And-
you have any accounting experience?
No, but Astafan was starting a new accounting system, and they needed people to do numbers and to put numbers in order on a certain order, because what I've found is this is the same process that is being used now for electronic to compile electronic data. They use numbers to assign a certain let's say a department would be a number. So rather than putting, because it's numbers, even computers now it's numbers.
Right.
So that thing started there for me.
Right.
So when I had to check how much one invoice, had to calculate the cost of the goods on that invoice, calculate the cost, the selling price for that invoice, and assign it to, say, if it's a new invoice, it would be the wholesale, so it's 305. So and all of those things then had to be fed into the computer. Computer was a machine that you know didn't have the memory like the computers now.
So part of your computer, let me
No, it was a big long machine with well, the way it became a computer is because the operator had to put in the figures before, then add the figures to it and to just print it out.
Okay, then.
So, but I had to compile a lot of that.
We've come a long way from that, eh?
Yes. And so that would take a lot of doing, plus the fact that all day long I was doing something else beside my job. Mr. Robinson, come and run up to my home. Mr. Robinson, go down to there. Go down to Canefield. Go down to Fonkoli. We had a Fonkoli department. You know, so I did a lot of errands. And at the time, I just got my driver's license, which I got in
So you're
Barbados.
excited to
Of course, I
drive.
want to drive all the time.
Yes.
So anytime you call, I'm willing to go, but it's keeping me working longer. But I didn't mind. It gave me a lot of experience that I am now using in my own business to be able to run the business in a way that, you know, those are the figures. And so I'm very thankful that I got that experience. Like, to me, it didn't look like work.
It didn't look like work. You enjoyed it.
Yes.
All right. So let's go through the journey of being at Astafans. Take us through. I hope I'm not throwing you off your little routine that we have for tonight. But let us talk some more about your experiences at Astafan and the other jobs that you would take there. and how that would lead into you becoming an entrepreneur.
Um, while I was at Astafan, I got these promotions. I first was promoted from the office to what we call the appliance department. It's still there, the top floor. And so I was given an assistant's job. And one of the things that I did, the man who was my boss, Mr. Astafan, sent me to negotiate for him the the renting of the premises where he was going to stay. We wanted to rent a house for the man to live because coming from England.
All right. To
No,
come,
from Canada. From Canada.
and he was coming to the what?
He was coming to work at Astafan.
He was coming to work at Astafan's, and you had to find him a place to stay.
Yes.
So you were sent to negotiate
Yes.
with the
Because Mr.
landlord.
Yes, because you know Mr. Astafan will always charge him more money.
Right. So they sent you.
Yes.
And how did that work out?
Well, we got the place.
At a price that you wanted?
I suppose it was at a price because Mr. Astafan took it.
Okay.
So
you did a good job.
Yes, I remember 2 of those assignments. Okay, so where are we going from there?
We're still at Astafan's.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I got an assistant's job.
Right. And after that, I went I was given a department because the man who was in the department was leaving and they needed somebody to fill the space, the spot, the position. So Astafan used to tell tires and gas in that department called the Asto Gas.
Okay.
So I was given that job to be the manager, but mostly it was just the 2 of us, but I was in charge.
Okay.
Not 2 of us, sorry, 4 of us. I had the truck, the driver, and a helper, the cashier, and myself.
Okay. So you were running your department.
I was running my department.
Okay.
And from there, I started learning how to repair stoves and installing stoves.
On your own?
No, because that was part of the job I would send people out to do.
Right.
So those kind of jobs, you don't have to teach them to me. I just have to look and I can do them. So I learned how to repair stoves and to do installation of stoves with the gas and so on. And even to the point of when we had breakdowns in the gas. I remember we had, say we have a motor pump in the gas and it stopped working, but we have the part, nobody to fix it. I went and fixed it. You know,
without any prior.
No, to me it's just watch it and I know it. I see how it works and I can fix it.
That's a special skill, special talent.
But you know, it doesn't suit all jobs because especially in things like wiring and so on, where you have to know specific things. You have to know how thick a wire to put there because if you don't, it will burn down the house. You know, it's different. But for that kind of job, like I did a lot of wiring. What you have to know, I did some of it at school, so I was not a stranger to that.
Okay, okay, good stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Astrogas.
Astrogas. I stayed there for a while. I don't remember exactly how long, but after that, Astafan got an offer to open a tire retreading shop. So
and what is tire retreading?
Yes, tire retreading is to sort of put a new cap on a tire by buffing, what you call buffing, like scraping off the oxidized rubber, the old rubber, to give it a new surface to which you bond, you apply a new piece at the top, and that came in the form of a tread rubber, which was already pre-cured, what you call. So it's already hard enough to be used, but you have to get the tire and the new thread to bond together in a way that it will not come off when it's being used.
Okay.
So
And
I
does
was
that turn it into a what we call a used tire?
no, that
No,
is
that's a
you
totally
take a
different thing.
used tire and you turn it into a retread tire,
You take a used
a
tire.
tire which you use from new.
Uh-huh.
When it's finished,
Uh-huh.
you put a cap on it by going through the process of retreading.
Threading.
Mm.
Okay. So nowadays you can choose to buy a brand new tire or you can choose to buy used tires. So that is
The
what I was
retreading business still goes on because my nephew is doing that. After we'll come to that.
yes. You sure will remember to come to that. We have a lot to talk about still, you know. It's 11 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is the In the Spotlight radio show.
What we're going until 12
with Mr. Robinson, Mr. Ken Robinson, who we learned tonight. His name is actually Edric.
You remember that?
Edric Roosevelt Robinson. Of course, I remember that. I remember a lot that we've spoken about so far, Mr. Robinson. So yeah, so you got you started, Astafan started this retreading business.
Yes. So I was sent to learn it. They sent two of us. I was a trusted man that worked at Astafan for a long time, and he was a Bajan. Yes. And they sent two of us to Iowa.
Iowa in the United States.
Yes. To one just a backup, but I was going to be the one running the place. But being that he was the one, they really believed in him because he did a lot of stuff at Astafan, and so they sent him to make sure that what I learned that I could put there. But if I died, Astafan would still continue. So I learned the job and I came back and set up the retreading shop. And
where was that retreading shop?
At Fonkole.
Yes.
Towards the back of the building. And I worked there from 1974 until 2000. Sorry, what am I saying? 1974 to 1979. Okay, that was the last.
Was this something that the Dominican public made use of? Was it something people were interested in?
Yes, it was very popular. It became very popular because the way and the style and the durability of the tires caused people to start believing that they had a deal. So, and they did have a deal because we advertised double the mileage, and it actually give you more mileage than a new tire. So yes, that was one of the concepts of making the tire what it is, and because of that, I became very friendly with a lot of truck drivers who used only the tires I sold. And
you didn't sell new tires at the time, though.
Astafan used to sell new tires before, but when we got into the retread business, all new tire sales was stopped.
Okay. All right. So retreading is what it was.
Yes.
And 1979, you did that up to 1979.
Yes.
And what did you remain at Astafans? What happened from there?
No, after 1979, I left Astafan. But during the time I was at, before I left Astafan in 1979, I did a couple of things. What we used to do was, what I found out I could do was to re-groove tires, which is a different thing. So I ordered some equipment which was really just one piece of equipment, an iron, like any hot iron that would make a groove in the tire. And I would buy.
Yes, go ahead.
I would buy the tires that Astafan couldn't use for one reason or the other. And so I had a guy, I would buy the tires from Astafan because I have access to it. And I opened a shop on Kennedy Avenue with a guy regrooving tires for me.
So wait, let us understand something here. So retreading
and regrooving are different.
Regrooving.
Mm-hmm.
Help us understand the difference. One, and the second thing I want to find out from you, was that conflict of interest in any way?
Looking back at it, you might think it is, but I was helping to do away with tires they couldn't use, and the landfill couldn't accommodate them either. So um, if I sold it to somebody else, it would have been okay rather than me doing it. No, one thing I made sure about is that I didn't steal it.
Right. You paid for it.
I paid for it, and I went to the office and paid for it, and they saw when I passed out of it and checked it. So
Grooving.
regrooving,
Regrooving.
I had a guy doing that for me, and that was done up to 1979 also.
You've not told us what it is yet.
The regrooving part?
Yes.
Yeah, is to make to burn new grooves in the tire so that it could be used. It would have some traction on the road.
So is
This-
that the lines we see in
Yes,
the tires?
those are the grooves.
These are
right.
the grooves.
Mhm. So normally you would follow the existing pattern and make the grooves in the tire so that it would have. On a tire, there is a certain a depth of tread that is not used, and that is below after the grooves are finished. Right, there is still rubber. There's still rubber there that can be used for something else, and so there are tires that you can't retread. So those tires that you couldn't retread, I bought those and regrooved them. As I said, use a hot iron that was specially made to do that, and put the grooves in tire and sell them for a little bit of money.
How did you know about that though? About grooving? And I mean, you were into retreading.
Yeah.
But how did you know about grooving to even start a business with
I
grooving?
can't remember how I got to know about it, but somehow I had a cousin in England, and he was working at a tire place too, and I got him to buy me the equipment and send it down to me. So that's how I got it. I was importing a long time before I started business.
So the regrooving, did that turn out to be something popular as well and in demand?
No, it didn't really, because when you regroove a tire, you're actually taking away some of what makes the tire the tire. So then you have I would say no guarantee that, because you're actually cutting into the sub thread of the tire, and then we found out that the tires were likely to fail because of that.
Okay.
And
you shut it down?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I didn't actually shut it down. The hurricane in 79 shut it down for me.
Okay. Saved you some trouble, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was one of the first businesses that you went into.
Yes.
Grooving.
Yes.
Other than what you worked doing, which was retreading at the time. So that was grooving. And you said soon after that, sometime after that, you left Astafan in the same 1979.
Yes. In 79, after the hurricane came, and I thought to myself, why really am I going to be going back to work for a man? Because I need to do something for myself. So
and just to be clear, Mr. Robinson, it had nothing to do with the man or the business.
No,
it was about you.
I learned a lot from Astafan. I'm very grateful to have worked at Astafan. Yeah, it was about my time had come. Just like I told you, my time had come when I left Barbados.
Yes.
My time had come. And one day I said to my wife, well, I think we went a little beyond the point where I wanted to make that statement. I got married in 1973, which is a little before that, 74 and 79, to a lady, Eileen Bedno. Yes, and she has been my wife from that time 1973 to now.
1973 to now.
Yes.
So that is like 48 years or thereabout.
Yes.
Close
What?
to 50 years.
Mm.
Mr. Robinson, that's a very, very long time. What's the glue?
Let the lady do what she wants.
Let her do what she's always right.
Yeah.
Just let her do what she wants. Give her her way,
Yeah.
and it's all
And
good.
you're all right.
And you're all right. If she's listening to that, she's probably dying, smiling at that. Yes, but tell me a little bit about her, though.
um.
She's
she-
Dominican.
yes. Yes.
Dominican.
She's Dominican. She
Where
comes from
from? Oh,
Vegas.
Javecas.
Yes. Vegas. I
Mhm.
speak better patois than her though.
Is that so?
Yeah, and she cooks very well,
Mhm.
and since I gave up my cooking job, so I get good food, and uh, she she knows what she's about. Always does know what she's about, and I think she has helped me so very much in everything.
In
So
the business.
yeah, she's a full
Mhm.
partner in the
She's a
business.
full partner in the
Yeah,
business.
she's a
That's
full.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the glue, Mr. Robinson. You
Mm.
have to make her a full partner.
She's a full partner.
Equality. And
Yeah.
what about family? The children that were born from.
Oh, my children. I had a boy and a girl before I got married, but that was brought in they were brought in. My wife understood that, and we live very well.
Of course.
And my other children with my wife, the they're very very helpful to me. Yes, like Karen. I'm sure she's listening. She was here up to Karen. How long you were here? She was here up to Sunday or Monday. She just went back. Yeah, she left on Saturday. Friday, sorry. She left on Friday. She arrived home on Saturday. Worked the very next day. And Cindy runs my business from the States. Yes, and Diane works next door as a medical practitioner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So they're very helpful. All my children are helpful, and I appreciate them.
Good stuff.
Mhm.
You mentioned earlier on, before we go back to you and the business, that most, if not all, of your family are actually in the United States, your siblings, and you're the only one in Dominica. Mr. Robinson, why? Why did you not decide to go across to the United States and be with the rest of your family, or do like the rest of your family did?
Um, I had set up my business. My business was running good. So to me, it was like disturbing everything that I wanted to do to go to the States and work for people because I felt I could live in Dominica uh, and just be fine. And I found out it was the best decision I've made in my life uh, to live here and be able to do all the things that I have wanted to do without any real big fuss. And, I would not have enjoyed living in America.
You take vacations, I presume. You go see them. You
Well, yeah. I mean, I've worked hard, so I give myself the privilege of jumping on a plane anytime I feel like, or
That's
anytime
it.
something warrants it
That's it.
for me to go anywhere I want to go. Um, in 2018, I went to Venice with Karen. Karen is a traveler. Yeah, she took me to Venice. We went. I always wanted to go to Venice because one of the books I read at school was The Merchant of Venice,
Yes.
and it had a specific part in it that referred to the Rialto, and I did find the Rialto in Venice, and so um, you know, the life has been rewarding, and I'm very satisfied that I did not go to live in the United States.
All right. You don't regret that
No.
decision at all. All right. So you left 1979. A lot happening in Dominica at that time. We became independent and all of that good stuff.
78.
78, sorry. And
Yeah.
by 79, you had
Yes.
moved on. We had Hurricane David and you had moved on. First of all, how much do you remember about Hurricane David? And
Everything.
everything.
Yes. I was in a house that was leaving me and going places that I you know, we were in a house that it was a two apartment, and the people next door.
Steve Street still?
No, by that time I was living at Goodwill with my family, my own
Okay.
family.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes, and we were there trembling. One of the children was with us, and the two of them were in Vegas with their grandmother. And we don't know what's going on with them, but we know that we're almost dying.
Right. So you can only imagine.
You know what?
You have no clue.
No clue at all. And imagine, it was so terribly frightening. And we had to cross over through a window to go by the neighbor. Then all of us huddled together for a few hours. I was holding on to the door to prevent the wind from bursting it open until when we all left there and went into a garage next door where there was a truck that Mussons used to send out on the road to sell.
Mussons Trading.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into that garage and went inside of the truck in a cellar. That's where we gleaned a little reprieve, like we felt a little more comfortable because we couldn't hear so much of what was going on, but we could see outside things flying around. And after the hurricane passed, it was still daytime because it started at 9 in the morning. Yes. And then when you went outside, you wonder where you were because there were no trees. Everything had blown away. No leaves anywhere. It was terrible.
Compared to Maria,
it was a joke.
Compared to Maria, it was a joke. Wow.
Yes.
And you lived to see those, eh?
I lived to see both of them.
But you say Maria was the worst.
Maria was more terrible.
Monster Maria.
Yes.
Yes. But you recovered. So we're going back to 79. What was the recovery process like? What was the rebuilding process like?
Oh, that was when I decided not to go back to work at Astafan.
Okay.
So I woke up one morning, I went to work at Astafan, and when I came back, I told my wife, I don't think I can continue. So at the time I was building my house, and I was doing the building along. Two of us were building my house.
Jesus, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, two of us. We had full-time jobs, and we were building the house in the afternoon from 4 o'clock up to Santa Roma. And we were working until 7 in the night. Two of us building a house.
You and a friend?
Yeah, well, I had to pay him. He's
Well,
a worker,
yes,
but me
yes.
and a friend, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Commodore and myself.
How is it possible just two of you building a house?
We were building at the same rate the neighbor was building with 6 people. So, ask me that question again, please. Every day I came, it's 2 houses that were going up. And we started at the same time. We cast this foundation at the same time. We cast the slab, the foundation slab. After they cast 1 week before me.
How did you know what to do?
Mr. Commodore was he's not dead, but he was he worked for Astafan in the carpentry department, so he knew carpentry. And so the rest of it, I just went to books, find out what to do with concrete.
But Mr. Robinson, you are something else.
Yeah, I mean,
you build a house without knowing, with a carpenter.
Yeah.
And you need different skills.
I need different skills
to build a house, not just carpentry.
Well, he knew a lot.
Okay.
But I had to know myself because I want to know that I'm building a house that I want.
Okay.
So everything I did, I used to go back to books. I went back to books, although I didn't like books when I was at school.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a lot of books after school, after I left school, to enable me to give me confidence that what I was doing was the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we built a house, and during the hurricane, we started before the hurricane,
Mm-hmm.
and when we when the hurricane passed, it took off just one little part of the roof. That was the part that we did the day before, and we did not have time to really finish it. So
Lucky
the
you.
hurricane
That
took
was a
that little part off.
blessing.
Yeah,
What size house was it?
same house I'm living in up to
I
now.
don't know your house, Mr.
Well, you must come up there. I'll give you.
You'll have to invite me.
Yes, I'll do that.
Oh
Yes.
my.
Yeah, and I had to know what dimensions I want, how I wanted my house, and I had to make it a house that I would enjoy. And up to now, my children can't get rid of the house in their mind. That is their home, and that is what I was aiming for, to build a house that my family would like.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
That's why I said earlier on, you have to be one of the great Dominicans. Easily. No question about that.
You see, before I do something, I think about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because my wife would say, "You're not doing this and you're not doing it." I'm thinking about it. You're not doing this and you're not doing it. I'm thinking about it. And I'm not going to start doing it until I'm sure that I'm right.
Mm-hmm. And you know what you're about.
I know what I'm about when I start it.
So you built your home, you and Mr. Commodore.
Mm.
Did you get any other help along the way to do other things, maybe like cupboards and so on?
Well, remember the hurricane came and stopped the house.
Right.
So I was going to tell you what happened from there. That is the time the other businesses started to pick up, because I had to do a business. I had money in my hand, and I decided
You
I'm
had
not
money in your hand.
because I had just taken a new tranche to continue my house, because I'd taken a loan.
Oh, the mortgage.
Mortgage.
The money from the mortgage.
I said, house does not bring you
Revenue.
but I could make some revenue, and I know some things.
Right.
So I decided, I told my wife, we have to do something. And, she always allow me in those things to do what I want. There are things that I will not contest with her, but, and so I decided Puerto Rico was the place I was going to tackle. So I decided, I know tires. And in Dominica right now, there are no tires because the hurricane had just passed. So I went to Puerto Rico. I bought 125 tires.
You bought 125
25 tires, yes.
in Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico. Then I found out that I had jumped the gun, because I didn't know how to ship them. So I was there wondering about that. As soon as I went,
wait. So you're in Puerto Rico, you bought 125 tires and you don't know how to get into Dominica?
Exactly. So I went looking for a shipping company. I did find one.
You did.
But they were not coming to Dominica. So I thought about it, and I said, okay, I have a plan. They were going to Guadeloupe, and Dominica had a service. Dow S was traveling to Guadeloupe.
I remember Dow.
Yes.
At least hearing about Dow S.
Going to Guadeloupe every week with full of produce. So I said, that is the solution. I shipped the tires to Guadeloupe, and I was going to transship them via Dow S to come to Dominica. Now that is a short case of lunacy. Because all I had read about being at Astafan was little about transshipment as possible, very little about transshipment. So that is part I know about, never done, have no experience, absolutely don't know what I'm doing. And I went to Guadeloupe. For 3 weeks, I was asking the captain on doors to have the tires shipped for me, because I had got the notice that tires were in Guadeloupe. And nothing was happening. I think it was about the third or fourth week. I went to Guadeloupe.
Of course.
I went to Guadeloupe to get my
Of
tires.
course. Your tires need to be in Dominica.
Yeah, so I went to Guadeloupe. Things worked out to be very easy. I met a guy that was a Dominican. His name was Mingo. He was driving a truck. I hired the truck. I got a guy, a Guadeloupe, to do the documentation for me. And I find they charged me too much money for transshipment, but that was their charge. And the guy charged me at that time 100 francs to do the the documentation, the
Paperwork.
paperwork.
Mhm.
Now that is something you'd get done in Dominica for $10.
Right.
Anyhow, I had that done. I got the truck. They allowed me to I go into the customs, pick up my tires, drove them to the other side where Dawes was anchored, load them onto Dawes, and I start to enjoy myself. I
Oh.
felt a load came
A
off my mind.
relief,
Yes.
relief.
So that is the way the tires got to Dominica. And as soon as they landed in Portsmouth, Dawes was coming in Portsmouth. No, sorry, I didn't get it wasn't Dawes, it was Cyril's boat, Cyril
Okay.
Hyacinth. He
Okay.
was running a service. So I had to we went to Portsmouth in the night and we left at 12 o'clock to go to Guadeloupe, came back on Cyril. And so the boat came to Portsmouth. As soon as the tires were landed in Portsmouth, I started to sell.
You started to sell right there in
Right,
Portsmouth.
right in Portsmouth, I started to sell tires. So I recognized that as a good business, and so that continued.
So you would go to Puerto Rico,
Mhm.
buy your tires, get them to Guadeloupe, and then to Dominica.
So even before I started to build my house again,
Mhm.
I realized that I have more money now because I just made a profit.
That's it.
So I couldn't go back to Puerto Rico right away because up to now I hadn't found a way. It's later on I found that there was some other boats going to Puerto Rico, and I started to use them. And at the time, I now picked up company like Pee Wee and Earl Johnson and Mars and Willis, all those people, and at Saint Hilaire, those people were going to Puerto Rico and buying stuff, and they needed somewhere to.
And it Centilla shared that with me when she was here.
Okay.
Yes.
So we used to meet in Puerto Rico once a month, and I tell you, that was always a big party because
Wow.
we used to enjoy that companionship and things like, okay, tonight we would go to a restaurant, 6, 7 of us, and when we afterwards we would just get up. You're paying tonight. It was fun.
Yes.
We paid $200. One person paid 200 US for the meals of the night.
Right.
But it was fun. We were making money, and we were that was our kind of our holiday.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and
And you all were enjoying success.
Yes, and so we were backing one another, so to speak, being one another's keeper. And soon after the tire business became established, I started to buy candies. Yes, that's how the candy business came about. We went into these places, and they only sold candies. And when you go in there, you get wild.
Mhm.
And so I bought candies once or twice. I said, oh yes, people are coming to buy the candies in a tire shop. I'm going to buy more candies.
So you were selling candy out of the tire shop?
Yes, across the bridge, on the West Bridge. When you're going out of town, opposite the Chicken Man.
Yes.
Stevens.
Malcolm Stevens.
Yes.
That's where you were.
Yes, that's where we were. That's where my business was. And I started selling. The tires were there. They were not going anywhere. Well, I mean, they were like selling themselves.
Mhm.
And I started going out on my vehicle. I had a station wagon, loading it up with candies and going to the shops to sell. So I became
You were a
a man, a
hustler,
man in
Mister.
demand.
Yes, hustling.
Yes,
That's what you call hustling.
and in I would sell almost a whole load of candies in a day and come back and do what I took out, I would sell almost all. And so I saw, well, the money was coming in. I just had to make sure I didn't squander it.
Yes.
And I would, one of the things that I never told my business, well, I need a salary this month, so you have to provide me for salary. That was for reinvestment.
Mm-hmm.
And I always reinvested all my money in my business. So I didn't take a salary. I just took what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I needed gas
Mm-hmm.
because before when I got married, I didn't have money. And that is one of the reasons I decided I had to leave Astafan and go
Mm-hmm.
and do some business that would enable me. So uh, I didn't want to relive those days. And so I saw that possibility and I took the chance and it worked out. That was how my business I started.
So, what would be the next business after that? The candies.
Um, During the time I was doing all of that, other things were coming into my mind. I'm a technical person, and while I was at Astafan, I I hurt my finger. You can still see it. I hurt this
Yes,
finger,
yes.
and my wife thought I should go and see about it. So I got a reference to go to Jamaica to have my finger straightened.
Huh. Let's see what happened from Jamaica.
So when the doctor heard that I was a tire man, he decided that is not enough. That doesn't warrant a fixed finger. So he just slacked off, and I never got my finger fixed. So I had some money, and I bought
You
a
went to Jamaica to get your finger
finger
fixed,
fixed.
and it never got fixed.
Never got fixed. I think the doctor just didn't pay me any attention after I told him. He asked me what job I was doing, and I told him um, I do tires, and then I just find his attitude changed. So I bought. I had some money in my hand. I didn't know what to do with it. I bought a camera. I bought a Super 8 film camera, movie camera, and that was to play a big part in the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, yeah, because um, now I didn't know when I bought that it would be an expensive hobby, but uh, every time I got into a hobby situation, I always try to make it make money because I can't afford to have a hobby. I must have something that makes money.
Mm-hmm.
So I started using the camera, learning how to operate the camera, learning how to make movies, so to speak. And, I was always very interested in movies because on the television, and I would watch a movie and critique it in my own mind. What is good? What is bad?
What could
What
have
I
been done better?
yes.
What mistakes were
Up
made?
to now, I do that, and so um, I started working the camera for me to be able to use it for doing something that I would like, and I found that uh, it was expensive to operate because the film was something that you put it in the camera. It only took 3 minutes for you to finish a roll of film. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And with that 3 minutes and 20 seconds, you have to make a story. So I had to practice dry runs without film for me to know how to move the camera, which movements were acceptable in photography, in film, in the film business. And I did a lot of little things, go to the beach and do filming of little acrobatics and so on. And I thought,
So you started this.
yes. So that in itself produced an amazing satisfaction for me because when I did a film at a show that Alwyn Bully was um, was acting in called Jesus Christ Superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell him. I went in and I filmed it, and I had it, the film processed. And when I got it back, I brought it for him to see. This is what I just did.
Where was the processing done here, or you
No,
had
I
to
had to
send
send it
it
overseas to
overseas?
get it processed. Right to Miami it used to go.
Wow.
So
You showed it to him.
I showed it to him, and he was so impressed. He decided we must do the whole play. We must do the whole play on location. Location means you go in the field everywhere you want something to happen. You go to that location and you build the film, in that location to make it look real. So the first thing he told me to do was to write a film script, and
What you knew about that, Mr. Robinson?
nothing. But I wrote a film script. I wrote a film script from what I thought should have been a good thing to do. Not having any prior knowledge or thing like that, but I knew certain little things, and I wrote the script for him. And when I handed it to him, that impressed him too. So we decided to film the Jesus Christ Superstar on location. What happened with that was something we didn't expect. When we started, he called his whole cast together, and we used to assemble at his home on Hillsborough Street every Sunday because everybody was working. So only Sunday we could do it. For like 5 weeks, we couldn't do 1 minute of filming for about 5 weeks. Every Sunday, rain came,
Oh.
and aborted our plan. And so maybe around the 6th week, we had the rain held up. So we started in the gardens, and with no knowledge, okay, for the whole, we bought 40 rolls of film, and with no prior knowledge beside the little practice I've had, I recorded 40 rolls of film without making a mistake big enough for us to throw away a roll of film. We never throw away a roll of film. That means focus would have to be right, lights would have to be right, all the technical details would have to be right. And we made that film. And the two of us sat in his house night after night, late in the night, editing that film until we were satisfied. No, the film is on one side and the sound is on the other side. It's not on one strip of film you're playing the film and you're getting sound. Every time we start the film, we have to start the song to make sure it's in sync. So when Jesus start to sing, what is coming out from his mouth is what you're hearing.
Yes.
And we did that, and it was shown to the schools in the St. Gerard's Hall for about 5 or 6 weeks, because it was an amazing film, and which was destroyed in the hurricane, and by the way. And yes, and we had another test of our abilities when the government brought down some people here to do a film, a director from England and a cameraman from Jamaica. Alwyn did the technical things for the technical direction of the film, and I was second camera operator. And we showed them that film, and they could not believe that film was still done with one camera and
40 rolls of
and 40 rolls of film. Turned out to be an hour and 20 minutes of film without a mistake.
But do you know what that is, Mr. Robinson? That's a blessing. That's natural talent.
Well, I just look at it
Because
as,
everything I'm hearing you saying, a lot of it, you had no prior knowledge.
no, I didn't have any prior knowledge, but I had common sense.
You had common sense.
And to me, when I use my common sense, up to now, that's what guides me, because for some people, common sense is not so common, but that's what's holding me up.
What else were you able to do with that camera? Because we still have a lot to talk about. Our time is slowly creeping up on us.
Okay.
You were able
Well,
to
I,
do
ca-
some
I
more work.
I got into video production. I
Mhm.
used to do news for mapping with
That's
the
it.
help. Yes,
Mhm.
did news for mapping 5 days a week, and we during that time we did an amazing amount of shows. We did all the shows that for the carnival and so on. And we in 1985 we did the Queen's Visit and made it look like it was a live thing that was going on. So we took the film, we took a roll, a cassette, filmed it, and within half an hour of shooting it, it was in at mapping at Mount Daniel to be shown. So the people who were watching thought that they were watching live.
Were you doing it by pieces?
Yes,
Sending it up by pieces
every half hour.
every half hour.
So I had my
Incredible.
commentators
Mhm.
and um, my film people, Mario Tula, Clifford Gibbons, um, and you remember the man they called Monster B?
Of course.
He was one of my
course.
commentators, and Duncan Stowe, and all of those people were with me at the time, doing news and things like that.
And you mentioned some of the others as well, Parry Bellot,
Yes,
Honorable Lennox Linton, Duncan Stowe, Steinberg Henry.
yes, they all read news in my studio.
You did amazing work.
So I chose those people because they were already popular.
You would have chosen me too if I was around that time.
You were too little.
I was too little, right? So you did all of this in video production, and we can talk about the studio, recording studio as well. I think you have a project you're working on. We need to mention that as well,
Yeah.
and then we'll go back to the other businesses that you would have started, because even today we know that you have the supermarket, you still sell bread and so on. But let us talk about the recording studio.
The recording studio I began very innocently because I thought that we were sending money, we were shipping away money, and we didn't have anything to account for it when we got the recording back. So I got some assistance from the government in the form of duty free.
Mhm.
I bought the equipment, and again, I had to put myself to study to learn how to do recordings. So
So you parle l'école pour pièce les bagages ça là. Ah yeah.
my
Common sense.
my wife told my children one time, "Your father's bed is his university."
Yes, because you read a lot.
And I didn't like to read when I was at school. So yes, I opened up the studio, and immediately as I opened up, I started getting work. The first recording was the recording done by Dominica folk singers, and right behind that, something done by Julia Aaron. And those two recordings, one was the folk singers, one was a whole album, and Julia Aaron was two songs, one on each side of the 45. So I took that to Puerto Rico. I made the vinyl cut out of it, brought it down, and sold. It did well. The government had commissioned the one for Dominica folk singers because I think they got the money from. So I got paid for that job right away. So money staying in Dominica right away. And after that, people just came to the only recording studio. That was the first recording studio.
First recording studio.
Yes. And allow me to go back a little bit.
No problem.
Because that film camera,
Mm-hmm.
right in my phone here, I have a cut of the day after our independence. The day, not the day, a couple of days after our independence, at the gardens, where all the citations for different things were read. It is silent because, as I said, that didn't have any sound to it.
Right,
So
right.
I'm probably the only one with a little bit of that.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
not so good because the tape itself was damaged in the hurricane.
Can you
And
get it? Can you get it? Would you be able to get it now?
okay, that,
Just not to air the entire thing for us, but at
it's
least so
just
we
a
can.
show. It's just 5 minutes, but that's
Yes.
you wouldn't see it very well
Okay. Okay.
um, because it's too far from the camera.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
so I recorded that. I also had the night of the independence done with the princess coming and making the declaration.
Right.
But as I said, film was very expensive.
Mhm.
So I didn't realize how long they were going to delay on that. And I ran out of film. So
Oh.
I only had a little bit of the fireworks, which was in the dark and not much of it. But what I have at the gardens is more of what, um, is a better thing to, oh, I don't have internet.
Oh, there's free internet here.
Oh, sure.
But it's okay. It's okay, Mr. Robinson. Who are some of the people, bands, individuals that you've worked with in that production studio?
During my time, all picky, for all the Calypsonians, all the bands except a couple of few, two or three, because in the early part, my studio was the only studio that existed. Um, all the cultural groups, all the gospel groups, everybody knew the way to Santa Roma to my studio.
Ken Robinson studio.
Yes. A lot of people slept in the studio waiting for their time to record.
Right.
And, you know, actually, it was tiresome, enjoyable, memorable. A lot of emotions came into play.
Yes. Yes.
Some people would just spend the whole day there because they like the environment.
And that was the first. That was another first, right?
That was one of the
That was
first.
one of the first.
Yes. So the first recording studio, the first full-length film to be made and
Yes.
edited in Dominica was the one with Alvin Bully and myself.
Yes, yes.
And
Jesus Christ Superstar.
yes. And so where am I now? Because I told you I wanted to go back there.
Oh yes, you said you wanted to go back somewhere.
Well, I've been back there. Where
Right.
we were at before.
Oh, so we can talk still about that. Do you remember who was the first person you recorded in that studio? First artist?
Yeah, it was Dominica Folk Singers.
Dominica Folk Singers.
Yes.
How many people did you teach? After teaching yourself.
Well, the people who worked
Who are
with me.
some of the people who have worked with you?
Radigan was the first one that I worked with, who worked with me rather, and he stayed with me for like 4 years or so, and then he left me and went away. Then I worked by myself for a number of years. Then I did the um, um, I worked for the Swinging Stars, the End Time Singers, WCK,
Wow.
a lot. All the groups, all the
All
groups.
the groups, all the individual artists.
Yes.
And who would you say were some of the people that you taught the skill?
Well, I don't want to say I taught people this skill. I worked with people.
You worked with people.
Yes. We all came without any knowledge, any prior knowledge. And so we, whatever we knew rubbed off on one another. I did get a man from England who was an engineer, and I learned a good bit from him. I brought him in. Norman later negotiated that, and then I paid all the expenses to have him here, and paid him while he was functioning at the studio. So nothing is for free.
Nothing is for free.
So mostly yes, sometimes when I didn't understand something, a few times like that, I didn't understand how to go. What's the next step? But then when you got past that blockade, it was an amazing feeling.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Mervyn Del Sol, I know,
Yes, Morgan,
worked with you
and is working with
and
me
is
now
working
in
with
the
you
new
now.
project
So
that you
tell
wanted
us
to.
about the
The
project.
new project.
Yes.
The new project is something, well, NIPP, National Institute for Praise Production.
Okay.
That is uh, an organization I formed because I thought that the youth were going astray, very, very quickly. And if we could save some youth by giving them an alternative to the what we call the nasty music that is being played, it would it would be good for Dominica, and it would be something that would serve them well in their future, because you know we there I figure ever since I stopped with the recording studio, we have had very little recording of gospel music. And the first thing we're trying to do now, which we just had our audition on Friday, and we've selected amazing talent to go through the
Wow.
next stage of 20 gospel singers who will participate in the next round of the competition. The competition is running from now until December,
Okay.
and we're going to teach those people what they need to know. They're going to have a band to practice their song with them, and we will be there to support them. But the organization is promoting good and and good,
Clean,
clean,
authentic.
yes, music in the form of gospel, which is the really the only way I know
Okay.
to um, to spread the good news of the Bible, of the kingdom of God, and and the gospel tells you if you want something, you have to ask for it. So why not open your mouth and sing for it? That kind of thing. I thought that people should sing, and that's we shouldn't sing other people's song.
Hmm.
And Dominica should get in line and make, if they can make a living out of singing the gospel, we should do that and not depend on coming hearing somebody else's song and opening your mouth and singing somebody else's song. To me, it doesn't mean as much to you. And we are hoping that whatever we do will rub off on as many people as possible, one to the next, so that we can spread that to include a very wide part of the population. Uh, so,
I am seeing a couple of notes there,
mm,
and I think this one is from Cornell Phillip
mm,
saying, "Thank you, Ken Robinson, for all you did for me." I'm trying to find the original comment. I don't know why I'm not seeing the original comment, that I can't read it. It starts off, "Many don't know." Let me see if I could find it. But basically, Cornell Phillip here just saying thank you to you for everything that you've done for him. Noreen Joseph is saying Ken also recorded ads. He recorded a Harris Paint ad that Benji Shillingford and I did, directed by Lennox Linton. So
okay.
you've made your contribution,
Mm.
Mr. Robinson. There is absolutely no question about that. What about your involvement with Sifle Mutai?
I started with Sifli Moda in 1969. Um, when I joined the group, I was probably one of the few people that auditioned to be a singer, but I never sang. I never sang a note in the group. I played the guitar first, the box guitar, and then I did the bass guitar.
Is that the only instruments you play?
Yes, these days I don't play at all, but
Okay.
that was where I laid a foundation in music with the Sifle Mutai because I love group singing,
Mhm.
and I also love to be in the company of Jean Lawrence, who was the leader of the group, because I mean she knew her work, and I like her renditions, the way that she put the songs together. To me, it's just authentic, so different, and I just love being in the group, and we traveled a lot. I went to Carifesta with Safely Mutai in 1972. And when I was going to Carifesta, my son was born. I was on the plane. So a lot of memories from Safely Mutai. We had a lot of nice time. And one of the things that made me actually start the recording studios, because we went to Barbados and also to Trinidad to do a recording. And the group was 22 strong. Can you imagine the cost?
22 people.
Yes. So all of that made me think that, we were really just throwing away money to go outside of Dominica to do recording.
In terms of some of the other extracurricular activities you did. So we spoke about Sifle Mutai, and you traveled with them. Tell me about the building of the sailboat. We'll go back to business in a while. When did that happen? And why were you building a sailboat, Mr. Robinson? And I know everything that you do it with purpose. So I want to know, what was the purpose for that one?
The purpose was that well, I don't know if it had a purpose, but I'll tell you how it came about. I went to a friend's home, and that's a place I always used to go. And this time I went there, he had a calendar on his wall. And what it displayed was a sailboat, really looking beautiful. And I said, boy, I would love to own that. But why not? I can build it. I went home. I dreamt about that sailboat. The next day I went to the public library. I took out a book on how to build sailboats, how to build, basic boat building. And I spent hours and hours going through and through. And before I was finished with the book, by the time I was halfway, I was buying materials and getting a saw and plane to start building my boat. And I did. I went through, it took me a long time, because like some days I only worked on a Sunday because that's the only time I had. And I would work for the whole day building my boat, and sometimes hardly doing anything, because first of all, I had to make sure everything I did was perfect, because I didn't know how perfect was going to be perfect. So sometimes when I did a cut, I would have to stay and watch it and compare it and so on. So it took a long time, maybe nearly 2 years to build that boat. And after I was satisfied, I had a very beautiful boat. But while I was building the boat, my friends in the area were laughing at me like Noah.
I was about to ask, did people think that sometimes you were probably a little overboard, maybe losing it a little bit?
Yeah, I suppose they thought I was Noah.
You were mad.
Building a boat. Yes. And they hassled me a bit. Now the boat was inside of a basement, and the boat is 4 feet wide, 12 feet long, and a depth of 18 inches.
You remember all of that?
Yes. And so they would come, how are you going to get the boat out? So they're making joke of me, I'm making joke of them back. When I finish building it, I'll break it down and take it outside. Well, when I'm finished building it, I'll break it down and take it outside.
When they want to be silly, so you're being silly too.
Yes. So if they couldn't figure it out, why did I have to figure it out for them? Anyhow, when my boat was finished, I called them to help me to take it out. So I showed them how it was going to get out.
Sideways?
Yes.
Definitely would have to be
sideways. Because the door is 3 feet wide. It's only 18 inches deep. So turn sideways.
And you take off your
take
boat.
The boat. Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. So you built your boats. What did you do with the boat? Did you name it something?
I didn't name it, and that was a mistake.
Yes.
And with that same camera, I have some footage of that boat, but I can't find it right now. Of the launching.
You had a launch event?
I had a launch event, yes.
Of your boat?
Yes. The thing about the launching, I had somebody operating the camera, and who couldn't operate the camera, I had to start it for them and show them what to do and not to move the camera too fast so that we get something good to watch. And then I had to try and get on the boat for me to be in the shot. And so we got the boat on the water, and soon we found out that it wasn't sealed. It had a spot where water was passing. So soon, although I made sure that I wasn't going to sink, I carried my Cali to take out the water from just in case that happened. So we didn't get far. So I brought the boat back in and redid a few parts, and then after that we took it out. And that same man I told that came from Canada helped me sail that boat because I couldn't sail, and he he could sail. And so I gave him full control of the boat, and I just sat there and enjoyed the boat I had built. And
Right. You were building a boat, but you couldn't sail.
no, I couldn't sail the boat. I just liked to see the boat, and it gave me an opportunity to prove that I could do something that I couldn't do.
Listen. I mean, I really don't know what words to use to describe you, Mr. Robinson. Tell us about the rental company you started.
The car rental.
Yes.
Oh well, while I was at Astogas, managing and a guy, Bradley Royer, told me he had 2 cars to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, 2 cars to sell. There's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'll buy the cars. And I got a loan from the credit union. I had become a member of the credit union because my stepfather used my services because he was one of those people that he did the accounts for the credit union. Yes, he did a lot of little accounting.
Oh.
He did accounting.
Okay.
So I would help him to do the passbooks. We had to check all the passbooks. So that was a kind of primitive job, really.
Mm-hmm.
So and then when he got paid one time, he opened an account for me. I never went to take out money in the credit. I didn't need the money. In fact, I never touched money from that account until I got married. I took another loan from there. But I used that account to get a loan to buy the 2 cars because I wanted a car. I wanted a car to drive, but I couldn't afford to buy a car because it only takes more from you more than I had. And that was before I got married. So I bought the 2 cars and I rented them. And when it wasn't being rented, I would drive one.
Listen, it doesn't get more enterprising than you, Mr. Robinson, at all.
If you want to look good, you have to be good. You have to do things for you to look good. I wanted to look good, so I had to do things.
So you got your 2 cars.
Yes.
Rented them when you could. Drove one when they were not out on rental.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson, tell us some more about the other enterprises that you went into.
We've done some. What is it that we haven't done? You can find something there.
I can help you.
Oh, I also bought a bus.
You bought a bus.
Yes, I bought a bus.
You tried everything
in 1976, and I used to drive that bus too on holidays and on Sundays. And I had a guy, the same guy who was in the regrooving business with me. I brought him over, and he was driving the bus. The name was Don.
So you named the bus?
Yeah, I named the bus. I didn't name the boat. And I didn't know anything about applying painting or things like that, but I made the drawing and did the transfer and wrote the name Dawn on my bus, and it was a name that attracted many people.
Did you have any Dawn connection?
No, actually, I thought the name should be Rising Sun, where I was rising, but my brother was passing, I was in the gardens doing that. My brother was passing and he says, "That's too long, man. Just call it done." Whatever I had done, I scrapped it and
You started
I wrote down on the
done.
bus.
You were done.
Yes.
You did. And we have to touch on those. Um, you were shipping business. You were shipping produce to St. Croix.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
By
You
air.
were trying everything.
Well, when something comes to meet you, you have to go to meet it. Look, I was sitting at my workplace and a guy came into me. I didn't know him at all. And he said, "A guy sent me to you. And he told me, if anybody can help me, you can." How can I doubt the man? So when I listened to him, he wanted to buy produce from Dominica to ship to sell in St. Croix. His father was a businessman, and but he didn't want to work with his father. So a friend who came and stayed at home with us for a weekend, who had been nice too, I took them out in my car. That time I had a car already, and brought them all the way down to Castaways and so on, and give them a drive. He remembered me when the time came, and he sent the guy. He says, "If anybody can help you, this guy can help you."
And I believe that.
Well, I would not have believed it. But after the man explained everything to me, I invited him home to have dinner with me and my wife. And when I listened to him, um, I figured, yes, I can do this. And so I organized it. I got a guy who um, had a truck and organized for him to go out and buy the produce for me while I'm at work. And in the afternoon after work, I zoomed to Marigot to consolidate my purchases because sometimes I had things coming from Roseau, from the east, from everywhere.
Wow.
And we would weigh up all the produce and ask my grandmother to do the actual shipment. She would get this big truck from our neighbor, load everything on the truck, take it to the airport, and wait for the plane to come in and take the cargo away
To St. Croix.
to St. Croix. So, it only took me one day to make a few moments to make a decision like that because um, when the guy came down with his money to pay, so I said, "Suppose I just take all the money you give me." He said, "Well, it would be inconvenient, but I don't think that's who you are."
Yes.
So I rest it with you. He gave me 1,500 US dollars. That time at $1.68 per US dollars. I, and I put that to work. And that worked for me for 2 years. And the business stopped because he wasn't such a good manager on the other side.
Okay.
And he ran out of money.
Okay.
And I lost about 60,000 US dollars doing that job, but I kept money. I didn't lose everything. And when I was finished with that, the money I had, I used it to buy the bus.
You use it to buy the bus.
Yes.
So something else came out of that.
Yes.
And the bus made its money.
Yes. Some people might say, "Oh, they might want to kill the man for the money," but the man did me a great favor. He took me out of poverty. So I have gone back to see him a couple times in St. Croix, and he was older than me, but I am very appreciative of that, even if he squandered the money and he
Glass
couldn't.
half full, you say that.
Yes.
You see the glass half full, not half empty.
Right. And the money was supposed to pay me and he couldn't pay me. Oh, I just made it work. But if he had paid me, I would have been better off now than I am now, because I really had money coming. So sometimes people want to think they will kill you for a little bit of money, but they don't realize how lucky they are just to have that little bit of money.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the bakery and the supermarkets.
The bakery came about because my brother-in-law, Ruben's Bakery, he is my brother-in-law.
Oh.
Yes. We had discussed baking. And actually, I had discussed with him to be a partner. but he's a man that was always on the go, really on the go. So after we discussed that, he went away and opened the bakery by himself. I said, okay, no problem with that. And I started buying bread from him. After a while, I said, okay, time come. I'm going to do my own baking. And so I bought equipment because I was traveling a lot. At that time, I was going also to Miami to buy. I had a cousin there. I have a cousin there still. She was just here at my birthday party. Very nice lady, Mary. And and I would go to Miami, and so I saw equipment there, and I said, okay, this I can buy, that I can buy, that I can buy, and I started buying equipment, opened the bakery, and putting myself to work, and I would work by myself early in the morning, 4 o'clock, get up, go ahead, start the baking, and then I got some other people to help me to join me.
So you started on your own?
Yes, I started on my own. Me and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we up to now we almost when we don't have the work, when the workers don't show, we have to
You do your own. You
we
do
have
your
to
thing.
show
You
up.
step in.
Yeah, and you know, all the nice recipes that the people like at from my place, we're still in charge of making sure it is the recipes that
Wow.
yes, that we put out that is being done, and we have to be there all the time to make sure that what we say, the amount of water that has to go in that and the amount of sugar is exactly what has to be in there. So we have this being able to put out a consistent product for our customers.
Several years.
Mhm.
So that bakery still in existence, and supermarket still in existence.
Yes, it's sometimes very hard, but we have a core of workers that are very good, and based on that, I mean, we've shed a lot of other workers who they're just passing, but we have a core of workers that are very good and very
Dedicated,
dedicated to the
committed.
yes, committed to the work, and from that we are able to keep our business going.
So as we speak, the bakery is still there. The studio is back in business.
Yes, we had to discuss the studio because it's an ongoing project that I don't want to lose sight of. That project is, I got some amazing people to be with me to run that business, because we want to run it as a business and as something that God has directed us to do. And so these amazing people, I don't know if they want me to call their name. Yeah.
I'm sure they probably shouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Jerry Lloyd, the Caribbean cowboy. My daughter, we just had a meeting this afternoon, and my daughter is in Seattle and she's on the meeting as Karen. And Diane, my daughter who works here, is on the board. A guy called Kerry. We have an Englishman called Paul, and Gary Didier is on the board as a, and Alfie, DJ Alfie, Samantha Robinson. Have I forgotten anybody? Guys, don't cut off my neck if I forget anybody.
It is 10:23. We've gone quite a bit over time.
Oh, we got
yes. Do you believe it's that time?
No, I don't believe it's that time.
Yes, and we're just about losing power there on our live phone. So, Mr. Robinson, I mean, how would you sum it all up?
I have lived a good life. All right. And I worked hard. I don't regret any of it. And I just wish that this new business, this new NIPP project would do as well as I anticipate it will do. And if it does well, my blessings will have been complete.
Most memorable project, Mr. Robinson? Most fruitful one?
My grocery store, really.
Okay.
But I also have the photo studio, which came out of
Still in operation?
Yes, my photographic enterprises. and you know, that was the first digital studio to set up in Dominica, and the CDs that we did, first
Yes.
CDs to be recorded in Dominica, the cassette tapes,
So
first
many
cassette,
firsts.
yes, first cassette duplication facility, you know, and I like, because I like that sound, because I don't like to do what other people are doing. I find it's too common.
Yes, you want to be different.
Yes, I want to be different.
You want to be different.
Yes.
Um, as it is right now, Mr. Robinson, what does the next 5 to 10, 15 years look like for you?
I am 75 years old.
Yes.
I just want to remind you of that.
That answers that, right?
Yeah.
But you're still actively involved in everything.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
actively involved in everything as much as I can, you know, and despite the, a few little challenges, but I'm working them out. And if God helps me, the one thing I want to do is an IPP.
NIPP. All right. Some final comments, sir, as we wrap up?
I would prefer to say thanks to all those people who have helped me. And whatever you have done for me has not gone unnoticed. And thank my wife and my kids. And invite me another time for us to have another 2 hours.
I suspect we can do that, Mr. Robinson. And I think, as Cornell indicated as well, I'm sure there's many other persons.
I just want to say thanks to Cornell for that little piece there. I worked with his brother on the broadcast television station that we had put up, and he worked with me in the studio, and he's a likable person. I love him, and thanks, Cornell.
And just like that, my phone said goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, viewers, what a fantastic program we had tonight. So much knowledge, so much experience, so much to share, so much inspiration, so much motivation, and all of that from one gentleman who was adventurous, you could say, had a real strong creative bone, and it appears he was a bit fearless as well, because you have to be fearless to do some of the things that he did to build the boats, but you can't. Listen. Mr. Robinson, it was a pleasure, sir. I thank you so much for being here. I would like to wish you all the best with NIPP.
Yes, you're going to be hearing a lot about that.
All right, we're looking forward to hearing a lot about it. Hey, folks, that's a wrap on the In the Spotlight radio show for tonight. If you joined us late, you can always go back and look at the Facebook Live. I will also upload on YouTube later tonight, so look out for that. I think this was another great one. Next week, Monday, is a public holiday in Dominica, so we won't be here. But we will be back the following Monday as well. And hopefully on the following Monday, we should have Mr. Neville Wade from Portsmouth. Yes. He's quite a funny gentleman. In a few weeks, I've been dealing with him. So look out for that and much more on the In the Spotlight radio show. That is a wrap for tonight. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for sticking around with us until next time. Good night, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you for listening to In the Spotlight. We would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions of guests or topics and issues you would like featured on In the Spotlight, let us know. We would also welcome your feedback. Please send us an email at inthespotlight.da@gmail.com or contact us at 275-7565. In the Spotlight is aired on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. with your host, Ferdina Frampton. Until next time, good night and God bless.